so people were like straddling this leg, and it was very confusing. Yeah.
Yes.
A bit hot.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not going to say one. I'm going to just point at you.
Okay.
And start talking at that.
Thank you so much.
So.
Shay, you okay? Sorry, Shay, you okay?
We're going to go live in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to SHOWstudio. It's London Fashion Week and we are about to talk about Matty Bovan's Spring Summer 19 show. Matty showed last night, and so we're going to be unpicking it this morning in hindsight, delving a little bit more into the themes surrounding Matty. And we've got some wonderful and very, very knowledgeable panelists today. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves first before we start. Izzy, let's start with you.
Hi, I'm Izzy and I'm digital editor at Love.
Hi, I'm Andrew Davis, I'm a stylist.
Hi, I'm Paul Flynn, I'm an author and journalist.
Hi, I'm Zooey Gleaves. I'm a performer and founder of Lagoon Zine.
Very nice. Oh, and I'm Lara and I'm features editor here at SHOWstudio. So, what I would like to really raise right now is perhaps an elephant in the room, maybe, is Matty's very, very close relationship with Love and the way that that has kind of fostered him and the way that started. So I guess my first kind of question and what I want to bring for our viewers who maybe don't know so much about this is how Matty is so linked with that. Izzy, as you're a font of knowledge there, maybe you could tell us a bit about how that is and really why Matty is such a fit with Love magazine.
Well, Matty's one of our contributing fashion editors and with Charles, and they come on board every issue and sit in the issue meetings with you and Katie and Harriet and everyone and talk about what they want to do, and then Katie and Matty and Charles usually come up with a grand plan for an editorial, and then they go and Matty goes and styles it, usually with Charles.
They've been doing that for about 3 years, is it now?
3 years, yeah.
2015 was the first time their presences rocked into the office, and one scene never forgotten.
Yes, including Katie's dog, who really sees Matty and goes, wow, wow, wow.
And how do you think that has sort of shaped what Matty's doing in his career?
I mean, when Matty began working with Katie, who is now famously a creative consultant on the collections, I think it opened doors that, you know, there's no question with Matty. He's a very, very singular fashion voice. He's very, he's quite difficult when he emerged. He was quite a sort of, it's chaos, it's lunacy, it's almost sort of vomiting ideas onto the catwalk in a way that, exactly the way that you want from London Fashion Week. And Katie enabled that to happen at a really sort of sophisticated, on-point level, didn't it? It's suddenly when you're seeing the best models in the world wearing those clothes, when she's opening doors to the accessories design, accessories to shoes, to hair, to makeup people that perhaps you wouldn't have the opening to. It takes it to a whole new level, and you're seeing something that could be quite chaotic as incredibly sophisticated.
And what do you think that would mean for the brand? And also, what does that mean, you know, that idea for other designers perhaps in London? I'm interested about this kind of, the way that this scene happens. And
well, I'm not sure that you'd say that it legitimises it, but it definitely gives it lends it an air of something that he's quite a tricky, for all his kind of gloriousness, he's quite a tricky proposition, Matty, isn't he? He's quite sort of, you know, it's not, he says himself, you know, there's no point doing a show if you can buy copies of it in Marks and Spencer's the next day, and that's never going to happen with, or hopefully it's never going to happen with him. He's in the spirit of something that's far more radical and subversive than that.
But unfortunately, those really big girls are so important, and they shouldn't be. You should be able to show it on any girls that are in London, but you can't. When you see those images...
You get excited by the big girls
no,
as much as anybody.
Yeah, but for then, you know, people that run companies and CEOs, you know, see newspaper pictures of, you know, those, and they write their own pages, do you know what I mean? And then that's important for consultancies and money coming in. Because you look at it and you think, how is that going to generate cash? Where's the money stream going to come in from there? But it's like, you know, working with brands and doing consultancies, but also Matty having Mandy Leonard as a PR is really important. Because when these kids graduate, they're penniless, the majority of them, and, you know, vodka brands, you know, alcohol brands want to throw money at these kind of people, and you're going to say yes to anything. £5,000, Mandy will be like, I want 20 on the table, or get lost. You know, like, she's hardcore, and that's what you kind of need. Yeah, as well as Katie, as well as that, you need that kind of someone to nurture you and steer you in the right direction, protect you a little bit.
So I'm going to look to you because I'm interested in this idea of what's going back to what Andrew said initially, that these big models are really important. When you first see Matty, when you first saw that, was that what drew you, or were there other things that you think you found more interesting?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, having those big girls is definitely a cachet, and like Andrew said, you know, it is that mix of like the DIY, like the intense kind of attention to craft and detail, which is almost like incomparable to anything else we're really seeing in London. Like the, you know, that real big attention to like knits and experimental sort of like clashing of fabrics, but then showing it on, you know, the supermodels of the day, you know, the Adwers and the Winnies, etc., which I think is a really interesting combo, and it definitely elevates him. In terms of my interest for him, though, I'm more interested in this idea of mythology that he kind of carries, and I think he's spoken about how he treats his collections as if he's like a costume designer, or if he's, you know, he's designing for a specific project, you know, be it a film or something like that, and I think that's really interesting. And I think it's more that idea of he's creating clothing for a world, which then you as a viewer or a customer or whoever, you buy into that, and I think that is really what drew me in.
I think that is interesting, this idea of the narrative. I think, you know, this Matty's personal narrative, as well as what he's putting out in his shows, seems to be sort of what's being created for the customer. This idea that he's, you know, he's living in York and working in this tiny studio, but then on the other side, there's kind of a converse reality where he's, you know, socializing and in London and suddenly working with all of these big brands. But I wonder, is that what makes people drawn in, or is it the, you know, is it the world he's creating on the
Well,
website?
firstly, it's very it's really smart to stay in York and not have the overheads of somewhere in London. Like, how amazing is that? And then to pop down to London when you need to, and you can't be this wallflower of a designer anymore. You can't just sit in your studio and make great collections. You have to be out there 24/7. You know, you have to. And Matty looks great as well. You know,
It's sort of his own best advert, isn't it? He
and
looks
it's
fantastic in his
perfect.
clothes.
Yeah.
Well, he's one of those great designers as well who you look at them and then whatever they're wearing then turns up in the collection. Like they look like how it's like with Charles as well. Like whatever Charles is wearing, you'll then see in 6 months' time, which I think is super interesting and fun. Yeah, he's a brand ambassador for himself, which is really interesting.
I think the move to York is even more interesting than just about covering overheads, isn't it? It's kind of like from somebody, you get this with Rottingdean as well. So Rottingdean, Charles and Matty, they all graduated the same year from St Martin's, and it sort of says something about London itself at the moment. It's kind of, the last time I spoke to Matty, he was talking about the Hackney licensing laws. He was kind of like, well, why would I want to be here anymore? You know, I can come down just for a party, go back, and that's it. It's like, I'm not actually missing anything by being away.
And also, I think his biggest inspiration is his mother. His mother is unbelievable.
Yeah,
she's
she's
the coolest, most stylish woman in the world.
Sort of Sandra Rhodes of the North, isn't she?
Bonkers, and I think she constantly feeds that, you know, talent, definitely. And she makes his accessories, and it just all ties in.
He lives
really
5
well.
doors down from her now.
That's
Do you know what I mean? It's
yeah.
brilliant, isn't
So
it?
he bought a house on the street.
He was left it by his grandmother. Yeah.
Because I thought he was
so
still
amazing.
in his
Like in the
parents.
garden.
No. He was left the house by his grandmother, and rather than he was working. So some of the screen printing that was done for this collection, or most of it was done in his back garden. And he's leaving it out to dry during the heat wave. It's like,
I read in your...
it's a lovely idea, isn't it? It's kind of like that communing with... It's also just that idea of being a slight remove from the commerce of the industry, I guess allows you to be sort of freed from it in a way that he needs to be to realise the vision.
But I think you can probably drive yourself bonkers, even as a stylist or a writer. If you're in London all the time, you need to go somewhere to escape or to be able to switch off Instagram.
It's just funny, London itself is going through a funny time at the moment, isn't it? It feels kind of, it's so ironic that probably the most exciting show of London Fashion Week was made in York.
Yeah, which is
it's amazing. Yeah.
But Izzy, you work with a lot of designers as well who are, you know, based in London and spend a lot of time with that. Do you think that other people are finding, you know, that tension?
Yes, definitely. I mean, Marta and Per and Mimi all share that space in Seven Sisters, and I was there for ages, and they, I think they find it tough because it's so cramped. There's not enough, you know, they could never leave their prints to dry in the car park of a Seven Sisters hole. Do you know what I mean? So I think they do struggle with it, and the rent's so high, and they're paying, you know, as much for a studio the size of this table as they are for their flats. They're paying double, and then, you know, some of them are even doing it in their bedrooms, and it's probably definitely not sustainable.
It does sort of make me worry a little bit for like the state of, you know, the schedule and the way that some designers are probably going to really struggle.
I think just philosophically as well, the idea that you don't have to be in London is quite exciting, isn't it? And that you can kind of look on it as an outsider. It's very, there's something that, without being, he's not literal about this, but there's something that connects Matty to the kind of political moments, the chaos of the moment. He's absolutely not literal about it at all, but he divines something, and he feels like he's kind of like all the bubbling rage and madness of suburbia coming out. So you can sort of sense it all, and he wears it himself. You know, it's not a shtick either. He does that, you know, wandering the streets of York and Leeds. It's like But
it must be incredibly freeing, actually, to be able to have, you know, that immense sort of like that broad landscape of, yes, you know, I can make the prints in my back garden, and you have all of that time, and also it is almost like he's kind of going on like an artistic retreat for himself, but it's not a retreat, it's his life.
Completely.
And with that must come the freedom to, you know, of course, pop down to London when you want, but also, you know, do things completely unrestricted and also without your peers, in a way, influencing you in kind of that whole conversation. He's completely outside of it, and I suppose that's probably one of the reasons why the clothes look the way they look.
He's got real sort of casual confidence about him, even as a person, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's really kind of, it's very smouldering, which I think is quite interesting.
And we're looking at some photos here of his studio that I think we've been pulled. And I think what I'm interested in as well is this idea that it does seem very much like a one-man show when you sort of hear stuff like this, but of course it's absolutely not. You know, as we've said, there's so much about collaboration and people who are being drawn in, but it also doesn't feel like, and I would like to know, really is why I'm asking, that Matty has, you know, like a big army of interns behind him, kind of, you know, stitching furiously in the run-up to Fashion Week. Very much, at least the narrative, is that, you know, he's in this garden creating these items stuff, and I wonder, is that the reality?
I think there's like 5 people that I saw on the credit. There's probably more
As a studio team.
outsourced
I don't
and
think there is.
stuff.
I think it's just him and a right-hand man who was who's a tailor.
He really struggles to get interns up there.
I mean, Also, he says, you know, I'd rather have one person that gets it completely than 20 people that I have to explain it to. It's such a singular idea that he's presenting, and it's so indivisible from him himself. It's kind of like trying to get people to realise that.
And he's very young in his career, so he's still not letting go, you know. I think that's, I mean, I know people who've done it for 25 years and they don't let go. It's like they're still control freaks.
The other thing you should say about Matty as well is that he absolutely loves working. He loves creating. He's not one of those designers who sits and kind of tells people what to do. He's at his happiest when he's actually creating things. And he does it all the time. Do you know what I mean?
And of course, illustration is a big part of what he's doing, and we can see all these scrapbooks and sketches here. But I am very intrigued about his process. I know that he sort of fits his clothes to himself because he has this very androgynous shape, and therefore he's sort of able to fit to sample some?
He's actually not sample size. I did ask him about that. The
Did you? I
the
did
back's a bit
wonder.
broad. Sometimes he has to leave a zip open. But I mean, because most of it's knit and jersey and stretch fabrics, it's kind of, it can accommodate the wider girl.
Which is good.
Thank God.
So let's have a look at the show, which we now have up, which showed yesterday. And any opening
I love look
thoughts?
number 2. I think it's beautiful. It's actually the most beautiful embroidery, and then it's laid on top of it and attached to the tulle. It's beautiful.
I think we were briefly discussing earlier. I know you were desperate for us to save up all of
Oh, yeah, I
our
absolutely
tidbits
was.
for the panel, but
You can release the content now.
I can
Zooey,
release the
it.
tidbits. Honestly, I was saying, I don't know if anyone else agrees, but I was saying I think this is the best show he's done, and I also think it is, especially in contrast with last season, I think it's infinitely more sophisticated, but I think also infinitely more wearable, while at the same time being 100% instantly recognisable Matty Bovan, and that sense of craft and detail, I think, has been applied to the clothes in a similar way, but you know, like the embroidery on that amazing kind of like taffeta skirt dress.
There's crochet flowers tied together with cable ties. I mean, when you see these things up close, the level of detail and craft in them is absolutely...
It's so Moorish.
It's wonderful, yeah.
And also those insanely large leather satchel bags, which is great because it completely pokes fun at the fashion industry right now because everybody has a satchel bag.
Yeah.
And so he's gone, why not? I mean, there is one huge one which I think Dree Hemingway was wearing.
There's a really, really super...
there's-
This one, the lime green one, right? I mean,
So
I'm
that's a
desperate
collaboration.
for that bag.
It's a collaboration with Coach, and like Paul said, there are these really, really mega huge ones, and he's also made really tiny ones that I believe you said could only hold a toothpick.
Yes.
It kind of rivals the Telfar shopping bag, I think, in terms of that. It's got that immediate cachet as like an it bag.
I think it's interesting as well that Coach is such a large, like, American luxury conglomerate brand. I mean, this collaboration, you know, it takes Matty much further than London Fashion Week.
But I mean, despite how subversive he is a luxury product as well, isn't it?
I mean, that would cost the earth, those dresses, you know, like, because of the time that's
Or
gone
they
into
should,
them, the couture.
do you know what I mean? Yeah, I think of him as, it sort of makes sense with that mass commercial brand. It's like, I mean, already at the show yesterday, you were seeing people with handbags, and you're like, yep, they're the ones to have. Is he?
Is he?
Over
Out
to
in
you.
your bag.
Love the bag. No, but also I think Stuart also really loves Matty.
Yeah.
They've got that same kind of northern humour and admiration for each other, and I think it really works because he gets it.
But it does also feel like Matty's a designer's designer. You know,
Yeah.
he worked very well with Marc Jacobs. There's a lot of this. It feels like he's very, very sort of deft at ingratiating himself with a lot of people in fashion.
Yeah.
It keeps an old wheel turning as well, doesn't he? That idea of actually radicalising something. There is something that I'm obviously indebted to, and the most exciting person on the front row last night was Vivienne Westwood, and you know that's even just to have that wheel keeping on turning and seeing you know the most exciting person on the front row of somebody is an actual designer.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not a Hollywood celebrity.
Yeah.
It's not a you know it's the person that he wants the sort of the admiration of as much as anybody. His mum Instagrammed it as you know, is her hero. She got
Oh, yeah,
sent
her mum,
I love
his
they were
mum,
sitting next to
his
mum
mum
and
wears a lot of Westford as
Yeah,
well, which is so good.
It's so refreshing as
That's
well. Like
brilliant.
looking at so many, like I was watching the panel for Rafa Calvin Klein, which Georgie did, and you know it was all of those like Jaws references, instantly recognisable. You know, super.
Yeah.
You know. You can see the guys queuing up on Boxing Day outside Dover Street Market now buying the clothes, whereas it's so completely refreshing because there's so much creativity, but it's also it's completely what's the word I'm looking for? It's
It's like a new palette, isn't it?
yeah, and it's completely devoid of cynicism.
Oh, the joy! I mean,
It's
that's the
just
other thing. Last
joyful.
night, you at the show, you're watching like right, you know, the rows at the back. Everybody's really happy. Everybody's
What
smiling.
a nice
It's-
end to a day.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, there's no kind of he's not trying to like pull one over on anybody.
No.
It's just really sincere, which I think is super refreshing.
I think it is quite interesting that there was this. I've definitely felt a feeling, you know, when Matty was showing at Fashion East, and maybe a little bit in the last collection as well, that there were some voices still saying, I don't really get it, or I don't really understand it.
That's kind of the point of him, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, well, you're not supposed to. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's not mass market.
I'm sure he loves that. I think he'd hate it if everyone liked it.
Yeah.
But then that thing of saying, you know, it's not that he's trying to pull the wool over people's eyes. I wonder if there is a little bit of attention there where he is showing things, you know, that some certain critics may look at and think, I don't understand, what is this?
Well, he's having that generational argument with himself about what is taste, isn't he? And that's what he's sending down the catwalk. So it's like, once you're asking those questions, which I think is the right question to ask at the moment, you know, what is good taste? What is bad taste? What am I allowed to do? What am I not allowed? Can I get away with that? If I can't, I'm going to anyway. So it's such a nice argument to have with yourself in your head during the creative process.
I think it's so interesting because in the run-up to this collection, he did an interview where he said, you know, why not make it even grosser? I think he was saying, why not make it even grosser? But in this collection, I think it's weird because I would have thought that comment would have applied to everything he's done up till now. Like, if anything, what we're looking at is, I wouldn't say it was gross. I'd say, if anything, it was more refined and. I'd say it was more refined and, you know, more put together and more sophisticated. I mean, maybe it is. I mean, I'm that Matty Bovan girl, so I don't think it's gross at all.
Have you worn?
I'm desperate to. I mean, like we were discussing, Matty is advantageously a sample size, and I am not. So I'm not. I don't think I am the ideal.
Leave the zip open, love.
Well, I'm saying, luckily it's knitwear, so I might just squeeze myself into a dress and make it a crop top.
You can get a bag at least.
I'll definitely be getting a
Well, I
bag.
am
Maybe a
interested in
headpiece.
this. Can you get the bags? Do we know the price point of where these would be? You know, where would these be sold? I'm very interested
I think
how
there is going to be a commercial line of these bags.
Yeah, definitely.
They're on sale at
Has to
Matches.
be.
these are these ones now on sale.
Yeah, they're about £700.
Not these ones in the
I
collection.
think these ones in the collection.
The one that
the
Izzy has
collaboration,
at her.
Oh, yeah, those ones.
But no, these ones, because, you know, I was saying, you know, at the show there were all these big boxes underneath the seats, and people were like whispering, and like, oh, what are they? What are they? I'm so excited. And we were all gagging because when these came out, we were like, oh my God, we've been gifted the bags. Like, completely shook. They are not the bags, I can confirm. But I think, you know,
What was it in there?
a hoodie.
And have you, is the hoodie going
It's
to be worn?
literally enormous on me. Like, it's like a big cocoon dress, but
There you go.
you
There
know,
we
never
go.
say never.
I've been at the damn show. I could have got myself a
Well,
hoodie.
Zooey, you know, when your
And
next
a pair of
birthday
jeggings,
comes
you're
up. But no, so wait, back to the serious matters. I am really interested in the commerciality of the collection, and obviously, you know, Zooey, you really want to buy it and to
But first of
wear
all, who
it.
gives a shit if it's commercial?
I think people
But
do. I think
this
people
has got
do.
such legs. It's like I could see Matty doing prints for other people.
yeah.
I can see him doing, you know, china plates, you know, projects with like IKEA, God knows what, furniture. It lends itself to so
Yeah.
many different things because it's so interesting to
So
look
then
at.
that's kind of the question that I think Rottingdean sort of raised last season when they did the show with, you know, the hired costumes, where you know the question was, why do a fashion show?
Yeah.
Why not show in an art space? And you know, I'm just, you know, digging for gold here. But if you know, if this collection is more of, you know, a presentation of Matty's talent, why do a fashion show if it's not necessarily for buyers?
This is fashion. I mean, there's no question about it. And I mean, if you strip away individual pieces, there's completely wearable stuff in here as well. You know, there's frocks, there's gowns. It's like just because
it's
of
not everybody's thing that they're going to wear, but that's quite good as well. Do you know what I mean?
You
It's
can see like the women at Vogue, you know, with, you know, the jeans and like the nice trouser, then on top doing
an upside down knit. Of course.
Like, exactly. Like, you know, that woman is a customer just as much as somebody who would buy, you know, the top to toe and rock it to a party.
Also,
like.
I do always like it when, and I think Matty does this, it's a designer who gives you a proposition of something that people will try and emulate. Some can contradict my earlier point, but I do see that with what he's doing. It does feel very much like a mood.
And also it's quite generous in a way because it does give, you know, especially if you're like a DIY, if you're like a club person or like a fashion person but with no money to your name, this is a look which I think, you know, with a Sharpie and some spray paint and some glitter, you could recreate. And
Oh God,
it's...
can't you imagine the 14-year-old boy
Yeah.
doing
Oh,
it?
it's
I
so...
can't.
In a
sneaking
suburb
into the car.
somewhere, yeah,
100%.
amazing.
No, it's quite aspirational in a way, and it's super inspiring. People who are just getting into fashion now will look at this collection and be like, this is the fashion.
I'm not on my own. I'm
Right,
not a freak,
exactly.
which
The point of fashion.
is often better than
Right.
selling.
And the point is
like
actually-
they can inspire somebody.
Right, and the point is actually hammered home as well because he made it in York. It wasn't like he was this like fabulous London person, like he's made it 5 doors down from his mum in York. That message becomes even more magnified.
What I couldn't believe as well is that when Matty told me my granny lives not far from him, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I buy all my fabrics in this place called like Boys," and I was
he's
like,
obsessed
I was
with
like
boys.
that, but
Not
it's
that-
like
He's obsessed with boys.
boys and boys. No, but it's like this.
Not the famous publication. Where we all started.
Please continue.
No, it's just like it's kind of like a Woolworths,
Yeah.
but only in northern towns.
Yeah.
For fabric.
And for fabric, and it has like fabrics and homeware, and it's a very strange place. And when Matty told me he bought his fabric there, I was like, really? Because my granny buys her fabric there, and it doesn't look like that. Like, you know, it blew my mind. You know, little kids that go in there and they can go and do that and you know buy some wool for not very much money and do what they want with it.
And it is really a story about talent, I suppose. I mean,
It's craft as well.
It's a great showcase if there's, you know, a CEO sat there looking for someone for a fashion house, you know, a consultant. It's instant, you know, he's going to get press, it's going to write its own pages. You know, he'd be such an investment for somebody.
It's such an exciting idea of beauty that he presents, isn't it? It's such an exciting idea to think that people are thinking outside of the received parameters of beauty, and it's that something what is beautiful and what is ugly is sort of the central question there, isn't it? It's so brilliant to see somebody actually throwing that out.
I wonder as well, looking especially after this collection, I wonder whether he's kind of in a position now, or might be in a couple more seasons' time, where people are going to be looking at him as a possible like creative director, like one of the larger brands might want to kind of have him for.
Yeah, definitely.
But then I wonder how would that translate?
They'd have to rebuild that garage Rue de Rivoli.
Down to London or to Paris.
but it's an interesting question. Do you think that's something that Matty would want to do?
I think it would be great if he did do it.
Yes, me too. Yeah.
Even if he did accessories for somebody, it would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's breathed life into the Coach bags, no doubt. I mean, why couldn't he do that with somebody else?
And I like that he used their house check, that really traditional
Oh, did you
thing
see
that
the
they
hair?
pretend in their head that they don't make, but it keeps the brand going, and it's in every
Did
airport.
you see the Coach hair on Finn?
yeah, I saw that.
Oh,
was
that's so
amazing.
cute.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I wonder if we could
just
get that.
did a really great job with the hair, I thought.
Brilliant.
And of course, Stephen Jones did the hats again, but they were this time sort of
A lot more,
crockery
a lot more difficult. I mean, it was such a simple message sent out last time, wasn't it? The headpieces, like the sort of oversized brain cells coming out of, exploding out of the models'
I
heads.
thought it was sort of an airhead thing.
I think it was a play on both.
Okay, cool. I did get it. I did get
I think it was but it was.
Well, it was party.
it. So many ways to read it.
But they were very simple and they were very direct and very easily understood. Obviously, a really, really highly impactful visual message to send out. But this time it was a bit more complicated, but no less exciting. you
Oh
know.
yeah, there was a marigold on
There
a
was
bit
a marigold. I
of fence.
noticed the marigold. The feather duster was really good as well.
Got that duster.
I've got that as well.
But I did think also there were lots of like emblems of sort of Britishness in those, and I did really like the play on that with the Coach bags. I wonder if that was purposeful or if it's
The
just
Derek
like-
Jarman film was this, not This Is England. What was it called?
Well, shall we read your
Yeah, go on, go for
The
it.
Last of England.
The Last of England.
Yeah.
Which deals with all that kind of
Yeah.
Britishness and stuff.
Yeah. He'd been, the thing is there that he'd been rediscovering Derek Jarman after he was a teenage obsession of his, as he was for many of
For all of us,
yeah.
But great, and I'd not even thought about Derek Jarman for a few
No,
years even.
incredible. And I
Great
think
that
that,
someone else-
and again, another person who left London and went out and connected, communed with nature and started looking at the city from the outside and the preoccupations of people outside of the commercial strictures of London as well.
Yeah, I mean, he never sat and thought, I'm going to make a film that's going to
make money.
Make money. I'm just
He's
going
going to do absolutely the thing that he wanted to do.
enough to live on.
Yeah.
I think that's the same thing with
That's the
Matty.
same thing with Matty. And the shoes are done by Gina again. And Paul, you said they were just done in 2 hours. What was that process?
So he goes in, he chooses the shapes, the fabrics, the colours, obviously like...
And they shut the factory for the day and they concentrate solely on his shoes,
Really?
which is amazing.
Amazing. And he literally goes in and that one, everything's instinctive and reactive. The shoe that I particularly loved there was the Highwayman boot.
The yellow one.
With the sort of Prince Cuban heel. The yellow and calico.
Can't get any more twisted.
It's so fantastic.
Just imagine the women in the factory who are normally making crystal shoes 24/7, and these Highwayman boots come through.
Amazing though, they're absolutely brilliant. And even I mean, there were some that did you see the little ankle boots with the bows on the front? So it's almost sort of delicate for Massey, you know.
Yeah.
It's like,
and great that it's made in East London, which is
Yeah.
so good. It's supporting British brands and stuff. I think it's brilliant.
There are sort of points in every part of the collection that seem to, it seems like he's put a globe almost on this collection. You can see where he's kind of coming and going.
It's his own world, isn't it? Yeah. It's that, and it is like he sort of operates like a film director or something. Obviously, there's heavy sci-fi influences there, and it's kind of, but he's creating those. I think the interesting thing, we were talking to him before this, was that he liked the idea of Amdram this time, and he was like, "Oh, I want it to be more of an Amdram character, like we're putting on a show," and kind of like, and there's definitely that feel to it as well.
Definitely with those, like big bouffanted, like 80s quiffs, which all of the girls have. No, it's there is something kind of weirdly regional about it.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. But yeah, like you said, he is totally designing. He's adding to a mythology every single time about what the brand is.
Yeah.
I mean, and also with something like this as well, you can immediately kind of see him being commissioned to do costumes for theatre or opera or film.
It's almost amazing it hasn't happened already, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like all those Lee Bowery, kind of like Michael Clark. It would be amazing to kind of go back to those sort of incredible fashion moments in dance.
But I don't feel like I've seen it before. I think it's that interesting. It's not that close to it. His energy reminds me of Westwood and Galliano and that kind of thing, but I don't see him picking through their collections, and I think it's that's what's exciting.
It's stream of consciousness thought, isn't it? It's free thought, it's free association, and then make sense of it afterwards in the edit. There's so much that in the studio you can see he's left out of this. It's like, this is not somebody who's piecing together, oh my God, I've got to get the last look together at the last minute. He's taking it back and then presenting. There were only 25 looks yesterday.
Yeah, it was.
34, I think, the last time. And he was like, no, let's sharpen up the edit and make it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it 100% shows that contrast between last season and this. Like, just how refined it looks is like a real testament to that edit. So it was 34 to 25.
Yeah. It's great to see that he paired it back, and not everybody was wearing the full face makeup either. Some of them were going out with nothing, which is look.
That is just
That's incredible.
remarkable.
There's your marigold, Andrew.
Yeah.
But again, it completely evokes that sense of, idyllically making things in your house in Yorkshire. He steps out into the garden and he sees the flowers growing up the wall and his mum's washing up gloves in the sink.
And then Stephen Jones turns it into a piece of art. Do you know what I mean? It's like, how beautiful is that?
There were actually also a fair fewer sort of bigger names in this show than in last, and I wondered if that was sort of,
I think that was
Winnie was there,
just
but
because Hailey Baldwin's getting married to Justin Bieber.
you ruined my point.
Sorry.
So there is a lack
It
of
wasn't
people.
that he needed it rather than Hailey Baldwin's wedding. But yeah, it's always that.
I love watching Hailey walk from in the past, though. It's so brilliant because she's got such she's the ultimate kind of commercial American girl next door. And then to be, and weirdly, it makes the clothes have made sense on her. Let's hope he makes the wedding dress.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
So good, wouldn't it?
A collective gasp about the wedding dress.
Yeah, I'd love to know what Bieber's family would make of that. I think Justin would understand it, wouldn't he?
Do you think?
Yeah.
You think he'd be down?
I think he'd be down with that.
That collision, though, between, like the supermodel girls and that fantastic like DIY, highly energized like London creative fashion. I mean, you know, it's similar to how John Galliano did and Alexander McQueen did. It's very much in that lineage, and Vivienne Westwood as well.
Sorry, I've just noticed, was that sushi on the plate?
Yeah.
So good, isn't it?
And the stag beetle earring, which is
And with those,
mind-blowing.
his mum.
That's his mum made.
them.
His mum made all the jewellery again.
The most lovely one.
Different.
Is the jewellery kind of available to buy as well? Do they sell that, or is it just show?
I'm not quite sure how much is going to be available to buy or not.
I don't think very much. It's usually
kind of-
personal orders, isn't it?
I think that as the interest increases in him, and it does become a kind of like, it's a sort of centrepiece show for London Fashion Week now, isn't it? It's like,
Oh yeah, I'm sure the mum's going to have Housewives of York all making it on a kitchen table.
Your housewives of
Sticking
do we
mosaic
think that-
beetles together.
How do you think Matty would cope if the brand did, you know,
Don't think it could.
expand and people,
I
you know,
think
the
he would
demand
very
was-
smartly grow slowly. I don't think he's aiming to have, you know, a factory in East London or wherever, you know, making the stuff or outsourcing it to China or Turkey. I think, you know, he'll grow very slowly, which is what brands can only do at the moment as well. Who has the money to do any of that? To do production on a garment is ridiculous. We're all so excited.
yeah,
know,
and
we're
even
really
with,
fond
with the boiler suits though, you know, you strip away all the kind of like, there was that sort of heavy embellishment on the top, but separate garments, so you take those away, it is literally a boiler suit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like something
But
They
it
are
sells
very-
like they have, you know, so many at Matches and it's gone.
Yeah.
You see it online because you get an email, you click, you look, and it's gone. Which, you know, there's that
a good
market
sign.
for it, which is great. And very smart of them to have that support so early on from someone like Natalie at Matches. I think that's really important.
I mean, support is kind of quite key here. And I think that it's not a critique to Matty, but it is sort of like an observation on the state of the industry a little bit. It's like Matty does have an incredible amount of support, whether it is from his highly, highly creative parents, from the fact that he is able to live in York, to the, you know, numerous big names in the industry that are supporting him.
But I feel that the retailers, it's genuine, as opposed to 15 years ago, young designers like this would get so much attention, and buyers would buy the craziest pieces, and the kids would think, oh my God, this is great that someone's out there buying it. They were buying it for the windows. Their budget for the windows was more than what they had to buy in store. But this is going to an online store. You know, they have stores, but their online business is massive, and that's what it is now. So I think that, you know, it's genuine people buying the collection.
And he is, you know, doing all these other things. He did the leads room for the London Design Biennale. You know, it's not just, I'm losing my mind, can't think of more collaborations, but it feels
The
like
shoot
there
for
are many,
days that
many
he did
more.
with his mum in the Yorkshire neighbourhood, like he's
Is he doing,
really fab.
Brilliant.
Is he doing styling work as
yes,
well?
yeah, styles, yeah.
And I think that connection is great because he's meeting those big photographers, because the next stage, I think, is an advertising campaign, as we've seen with J.W. Anderson and Craig Green. You know, they very quickly established that they need to work with
Actually, there's
art directors and photographers. And
There's a
that'll-
really interesting counterpoint between him and Craig Green, isn't there? Where Craig was doing everything is sort of very precise, and like he reacts to the chaos of the world by sort of formalising it all, and Matty just lets it all out, just lets it go crazy. It's like, I think that he almost feels like the exact inverse of what Craig does. And no less dedicated to it either, no less complete creative vision.
You can also see a MAC collaboration in like the next 6 months.
yeah.
From all of his makeup looks, you can see an eyeliner, lipstick.
I can see you buying into that.
That would also be fab. A lime green iridescent MAC, again on the shopping list. No, definitely, I can see a cosmetics. I can see cosmetics like this. I would buy those
I can
cosmetics
see
in a
you having
heartbeat.
Yeah, definitely.
Scribbling all over my face. Yeah, no, it is just amazing. And you see the and like you see the adulation that he gets from people like Marc Jacobs and Vivienne Westwood. Just
Oh yeah, he's walked for Vivienne as well, hadn't he? He was in one of Vivienne's shows, which is brilliant.
And actually, the Marc Jacobs friendship, that really makes sense as well. Like they don't do a similar thing, but that sense of like creativity and DIY, it does make sense for them to be kind of
Yeah, it's that chaos and anarchy that they both do. I think, but Mark's refined it over the years. I think early Mark was equally as bonkers.
And he had the supermodels kind of early. It's like kind of a similar thing.
Which is an unfortunate thing, but you need those girls. I'm sorry.
I just want to go back a bit to this kind of idea of what Matty does as being political. I think particularly in London, people are often sort of pigeonholed as doing political fashion or not, whereas I think I would just argue that fashion is inherently political. But Matty seems to sort of be conscious that he doesn't really have the answers, but what he's doing is making a statement. I think he said banging his drum.
Yeah, that was a lovely statement, a lovely thing that he gave when we were at the studio to do the notes about the only thing that I can do in amongst all this chaos is bang the drum for people to be absolutely themselves. And it's just a lovely idea, isn't it, to push individuality at the moment and to push the idea of kind of there's a sort of fearlessness to being yourself, isn't it? It's like it's not running with the pack, it's not doing the things that everybody else is doing.
It's really brave. It's not a grey suit and a briefcase.
Well, it's absolutely the opposite of normcore, isn't it?
But it's also inherently queer without him, like I said, banging the drum and saying he's a queer designer. It's it's queer without even having to kind of announce that it is.
Yeah, straight away. Yeah.
Right.
Funny
But it is also that he has taken on that, an element of that responsibility that designers do have to push that and pioneer that. He's not shying away from it by simply saying, I'm doing this for the reasons I'm doing it.
But again, it's all part of creating that universe, isn't it? That's going to be part of the universe, because that's the way he thinks. That's the person that he is. It's like, there's no contrivance about this. Again, those conversations. He's telling me that he started St Martin's the first day as James from Rottingdean, and they were in the same halls of residence with each other. And there's something about the conceptual nature of what they do that obviously very, very different. But conceptually, the idea of sticking to your own guns and being your own person and doing the thing that you want to do, regardless of what anybody else is doing, I just think it's so exciting. It's so exciting for both of them.
And the patterns are so...
They're beautiful,
His pattern cutting is so good. It's so technical, which is not a talent that just falls on you. It's like it's a proper
every single one of those flowers is crocheted by him by hand. It's like this is like. And he did work with factories this time. He did go to factories, as he likes to point out, across the north of England as well.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And so there were panels of fabrics from the prints that he'd made, and then deconstructed and put together his garments. He's just doing wonderful work, isn't he? He's just a really, really exciting hope for British fashion.
I think he does give hope for other young designers. I keep sort of banging on this thing, but other people, he has got such an incredible platform. I do hope that other people have it. But you can see that what he's doing is providing a beacon. And, I suppose, having him in big publications and, with big models, it does give what he's doing and what he's saying reach.
But also as well, it's the idea of him passing down a legacy of being yourself. So it's not like, oh, copy me, do as I do. It's like, do as yourself. Do you know what I mean? Which is like the best thing that any kids can be taught. It's like, bang to the beat of your own drum. Don't follow what I don't imitate. Just be yourself and let those outer recesses of your imagination. You might think they're mad. Try them out. See them. See whether it works or not.
Izzy, how would you like to see Matty continue? Banging his own drum as loud as he can.
Well, yeah, of course. But I think he always will. And I don't think he'll ever give in to the commerciality of a big brand. I think what he does is too special to be mass-produced, reproduced. I think he also cares about it too much to let it go huge and let factories do it. And I think he's so invested in it himself.
and he loves it.
Yeah, he loves it, and I think he will. Yeah, he'll definitely keep, banging to the beat of his own drum. And I do think that he would be an amazing creative director somewhere, and I do think that he could do an amazing collaborations with bag brands, and as he's done.
But if nobody bought the clothes and he was an artist, he'd be an exceptional artist.
Yeah.
He's far more interested in the majority of British artists at the moment. It's
Let's see what Matty does, and let's hope that drum keeps on banging. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Let's give Matty a round of applause.
Yeah.